On a cold morning in the summer of 1910, a passenger liner steams across the North Atlantic, bound for Canada. On board, a quiet middle-aged man travels with his young son. They keep to themselves. They are polite. By every appearance, they are unremarkable. But the man is not who he says he is, and the boy at his side is not a boy. 400 miles behind them, a detective from Scotland Yard is chasing the ship on a faster one, hoping to reach the river mouth first. This is the story of the first man on Earth chased down by radio. Dr. Crippen did not look like a danger to anyone. He was American, born in Coldwater, Michigan in 1862. He trained in homeopathy and styled himself a doctor of eye and ear complaints, selling patent medicines in London, the kind of cure-all tonics that promised everything and delivered little. He was small, soft-spoken, and timid, with round spectacles and a thick mustache. His wife was the opposite. Born Kunigunde Makamutsky, she went by Cora, and on the music hall stage she performed as Belle Elmore. She wore furs and jewels, she loved company, and she ran with the lively crowd of the Music Hall Ladies Guild. They lived at 39 Hilldrop Crescent in Holloway, North London, a respectable address for a couple who were not, by most accounts, happy. Crippen had grown close to his young typist, Ethel Leneve. A word here, because it matters. Leneve was later tried for her part in what followed, and a jury found her not guilty. The law cleared her. This is the story of what Crippen did. On the evening of the 31st of January 1910, the Crippens hosted a small dinner party. Friends came. Friends left. And after that night, no one ever saw Cora Crippen alive again. To anyone who asked, Crippen said she had gone back to America, then later that she had fallen ill in California and died there. The problem was the details. Within weeks, Ethel Leneve was seen wearing Cora's furs and Cora's jewelry, the same pieces the vanished woman had treasured. To Cora's friends in the Music Hall Ladies Guild, this was wrong in a way they could feel before they could prove it. These women would not let it go. They pushed, they asked questions, and eventually their suspicion reached Scotland Yard. The man who took the case was Chief Inspector Walter Dew. On the 8th of July 1910, Dew went to Hilldrop Crescent and spoke to Crippen face to face. And here is where Crippen nearly walked free. Under questioning, Crippen calmly dropped the California story. He admitted he had lied. The truth, he now said, was embarrassing. Cora had left him for another man and sailed off to America, and he had invented the death to save face. It was a good performance. Dew came away satisfied, with no body and no crime, and the investigation was, for a moment, effectively over. And then Crippen did the one thing that undid all of it. He panicked. Within a day or two, he and Leneve were gone. They left London. They left England. Nothing makes a satisfied detective suspicious like a man who flees the moment he is told he is in the clear. Crippen's flight changed everything. Dew returned to 39 Hilldrop Crescent and searched it, then searched it again. By most accounts, it took several passes before anyone thought hard about the floor of the coal cellar. On the 13th of July, beneath the brick floor, police found human remains. We will treat what they found plainly and without sensation. What mattered to the investigation was not just that remains were there. It was what was missing. There was no head, no limbs, no skeleton. Whoever buried this had taken away almost everything that could put a name to it. Almost. Because of that, the case became one of the most famous forensic puzzles of its age. Two answers came forward. The first was poison. Analysis of the remains found traces of hyoscine, also called scopolamine, and it was no mystery where it came from. In January, in the very weeks before Cora vanished, Crippen had bought a quantity from a London chemist. It was an unusual purchase and a damning one. The second answer was a young pathologist whose name this case would help make famous. Bernard Spilsbury. He testified that a piece of skin from the remains carried an old surgical scar consistent with an operation Cora was known to have had. A fragment of pajama cloth, traced to a pattern made after 1908, fixed the burial within the Crippens' own years in that house. But none of it would matter if Crippen reached Canada and disappeared. On the 20th of July, 1910, a man calling himself Mr. John Robinson boarded the liner SS Montrose at Antwerp, bound for Quebec. With him traveled his teenage son. They had a cabin, they had tickets, and they believed they had vanished. But Mr. Robinson was Dr. Holly Crippen. He had shaved his mustache and grown out a beard, and his son was Ethel Leneve, her hair cut short, dressed in a boy's clothes. The disguise might have held with strangers on a train. It did not hold for a man who watched his passengers for a living. The Montrose was commanded by Captain Henry George Kendall. Kendall had read the newspapers. The manhunt was front-page news, complete with descriptions of the wanted pair, and he began to notice things. How the father and son held hands when they thought no one watched. The boy's build and a pale band of skin where a mustache had recently been. The Montrose carried something most ships still did not: a Marconi wireless set. Before the liner steamed beyond range, Kendall sent a message into the air. As reported at the time, it read, "Have strong suspicions that Crippen, London cellar murderer, and accomplice are among saloon passengers. Mustache taken off, growing beard. Accomplice dressed as boy. Voice, manner, and build undoubtedly a girl." Those few words crossed the ocean ahead of the ship that carried the suspect and reached Walter Dew, the detective who had once let Crippen go. Dew understood his one advantage. The Montrose was slow. On the 23rd of July, he boarded a faster ship, the White Star liner SS Laurentic out of Liverpool, capable of overtaking her and reaching Canada first. Two ships now ran west across the same ocean. On one, a fugitive who believed he had escaped, with no radio of his own and no way to hear the news already chasing him. For all of human history, distance had been safety. Crippen was living by that old rule and did not know it had just been broken. The Laurentic won the race. Dew reached the mouth of the St. Lawrence ahead of the Montrose and waited. On the 31st of July, as the Montrose came up the river, a pilot boat went out to meet her, the way pilot boats always do. Among the men who climbed aboard, dressed as a river pilot, was Chief Inspector Walter Dew. He took off his cap and said, "Good morning, Dr. Crippen. Do you know me? I am Chief Inspector Dew from Scotland Yard." After a pause, the quiet doctor said only this: "Thank God it is over. The suspense has been too great. I could not stand it any longer." He was arrested on the spot. The ocean had not saved him. Crippen was brought back to London. The trial opened at the Old Bailey on the 18th of October 1910 before the Lord Chief Justice, Lord Alverstone. The case the prosecution built was the case the seller had handed them. The Yasin and the remains. The pajama cloth that fixed the burial in time. And Bernard Spilsbury's quiet, exact testimony about a scar on a scrap of skin. The defense fought every point, but the picture taken together was overwhelming. On the 22nd of October, the jury retired and returned in about 27 minutes. Their verdict was guilty. Days later, Ethel Leneve was tried as an accessory, and the jury found her not guilty. She walked free, and we leave her there, cleared by the law. On the 23rd of November 1910, Holly Harvey Crippen was hanged at Pentonville Prison. He went to his death calmly, still asking that Ethel Leneve's name be protected. Now a different kind of segment, and we will label it clearly. Everything up to here is the historical record, and that verdict has never been overturned. What follows is theory and debate. In 2007, a forensic team led by David Foran of Michigan State University, with toxicologist John Trestrail, examined a microscope slide said to preserve tissue from the cellar remains. Using mitochondrial DNA, they compared it against living people traced to Cora's maternal line. The DNA, they reported, did not match, and markers suggested the tissue was male. But the finding is contested, and we will not pretend otherwise. Could a slide more than 90 years old yield reliable DNA? Was the chain of custody intact? Were Cora's relatives correctly identified? The technique was new, the sample ancient, and many scientists were not convinced. In 2009, the body that reviews possible miscarriages of justice in Britain declined to refer the case for a posthumous pardon. So the conviction stands as the legal record to this day. The reason we still tell this story is the thing that crossed the ocean. A few words tapped into the air by a watchful captain that arrived before the ship that carried the suspect. Before 1910, distance was a fugitive's best friend. Dr. Crippen lived and died by the moment that stopped being true.